All right, 2023 is coming to a close, and I wanted to look back and just talk about the year we've had. I think we're going to talk about the releases from the year, as well as the conventions that I went to, and a little bit about the content at the end. All right, so MCP had about 12 releases this year, which is much slower than it had been, and I know a lot of us had asked for MCP to slow down. So 12 releases, about one a month. That's not really how they came out. We had several double packs in a month, and then kind of a stretch at the end here where we haven't had much in the terms of releases. And I'm counting things a little bit goofy. So what I consider the first release of the year technically happened last year, but the physical product wasn't released till late this year, which is the 2023 Crisis Pack, which is probably, at least in my mind, the second best thing to come out this year. Definitely the product that is indisputably an overwhelming success. A lot of the problematic scenarios went away. I think demons, hammers, and researcher kind of remain problematic. Researcher just can really, man, it just really favors attrition teams too much. I think hammers is an absolutely broken scenario with beams and rapid fire, and I don't think they're ever going to address it because it's everyone's favorite scenario, despite how insane I think it is. And I think demons still punishing you for standing on it and getting dazed and then punishing you again is a thing I would like to be fixed. But like these are such nitpicks from where the 2022 Crisis set was that it's really hard for me to complain. I know some people don't like the physical release of this because it switched to the tarot card format. I actually think this is really great, and if we had had tarot cards from the outset, I don't think there would have been any complaints with this. I just think like putting the logo or the symbol for deployment right on the card solves just like a lot of problems, and it also lets them like invent a new set. My concern here is I would like to see another Crisis Pack update. Like I don't want to go 2 full years without another Crisis update, or at least a little change to it. But with the release coming late this year, I don't think that's going to happen. But then again, they could, just add one Crisis in, and, like maybe I don't know anything. Next up, we had Rhino. Rhino was, I believe, very beginning of January. I know he was out for LVO because I took him to LVO. And he's had an enormous meta impact. He just didn't have it right away. Everyone kind of tipped that robbery was strong, but I don't think people had really realized how incredibly dominant in the meta it would become. And it's like a little bit unfair because part of Rhino's huge resurgence and huge popularity he's seen lately has a lot to do with the emergence or like the removal of the other really popular extract stealers. So like Rhino didn't see a ton of play because Voodoo was everywhere instead. And now that has been knocked down quite a bit, Rhino's back in the mix. Robbery is an incredibly powerful card. He's seen in Criminals with the new foes leadership and with Hellfire. All three of those factions consider him to be core to their gameplay. Like one of their first 3 models they play like leader Rhino, and then they go from there. Huge meta impact, really pretty sculpt. I like this model quite a bit. I had a blast painting him. He was really good. Next, we had my first release for the year. In February, we had Agent Venom and Spiderwoman. It's like AMG knows my birthdays in February, and they gave me both a Spiders release and a Shield release for my birthday. Wild. I think these two have had kind of a medium meta impact. They're played in their factions. So Agent Venom in the first half of the year saw a ton of play because of how incredibly strong Foreign Assignment is in Guardians. He solved a bunch of problems for Spiders and for Shield. He's just really good at running things down, good at killing other Spiders. And then Spider-Woman has kind of been all over the place. I know some Spider players think she's absolutely core and some can't stand her. I lean more towards she's core. I don't play her a ton in Shield. There was a time where I experimented with it, but I don't play her a ton. But they both see a decent amount of play, and I think this is like an amount of play you're happy to see out of a release. And then as the year's gone on, I think Agent Venom's impact has fallen off due to the resurgence of CGR, and he's been pushed kind of into a corner case and out of core out of a lot of the lists he was played in. Next, we have Beta Ray Bill and Ulik. Beta Ray Bill and Ulik were, I mean, one is arguably the most impactful box. If there wasn't another thing on this list, I would argue this is the most impactful box here. Ulik saw a ton of play early, was kind of all over the place, and then has really fallen off in the last couple of months. But Beta Ray Bill is the most played model in the game. He is the cheapest eyes in the prize play without having some kind of like leadership nonsense to get you there. But like as a model, they can play eyes in the prize and pick up a center extract and back up. He's the go-to for that. He also has a very large throw. He has access to a lot of power. He can answer a lot of the big boy problematic models because he can throw size 4s and he can shock models and he gets rerolls against flying models. So like he was useful in solving the Malekith problem that was early in the year. He's really tough to kill. Guy's just everywhere. He's just good. I am kind of conflicted on the Beta Ray Bill discussion. Like, I don't like that he's everywhere. I wish there was less of him. I play against him like every other game or every third game, something like that. And I wish he was less ubiquitous, but I don't know if the solution to that is to make him worse or to release another piece that can do his job. Like, I guess Aradad Hela is the closest thing we have. Otherwise, you have to go up to the 5 threats or you have to have some kind of leadership nonsense. But yeah, like it or not, I think Bill's here to stay, and I think he's going to continue to be very played very often. Next up, we had Emma Frost and Psylocke came out. Emma Frost has seen like the Hellfire faction wasn't quite figured out or didn't have a competitive list until like late in the year, until September, October, despite her coming out in the first half of the year. And so I think Emma, she didn't see a lot of play in X-Men. She didn't see a lot of play anywhere, but now that she's got this like very criminal style gameplay and can be more proactive than Kingpin, I think it's just turning out to be a really, really strong list. I like the idea of Emma, or I don't actually mind. I'm going to have a complaint here. But really, I don't think that power-wise, Hellfire is in a bad place. Like, they're strong, but I don't think they're oppressive. I think they're just a good scenario team. But I have major issues with how Emma is designed. I think she's, first of all, a flavor miss. I think like the rules on that model's card do not well examine a telepath. She's essentially a telekinetic in this, and to my understanding, that's not a thing that she does. And then like the being stuck in diamond form is like, while a cool mechanic, and I think it creates really interesting on battlefield like game states and like makes the decision really meaningful and interesting. It's like doesn't fit who the model is or who the character is supposed to be. And I really, really hate the faction design. Everyone is in the faction, I think, is dumb in a asymmetric tabletop game. I think being able to take whatever you want is dumb and problematic. Whether or not it's balanced correctly, I kind of don't care. I hate the idea. The leadership is cool. Like choosing when to use it is really interesting. I wish they had just given her an affiliation list. Psylocke was transformative for X-Force and see some corner case play in X-Men. I think she's a really cool model. I think she's really fun to play on the table. I think she's like medium strong. And now with all the X-Force buffs, I think she's pretty interesting. Then we got MODOK 2 and Immortal Hulk. MODOK 2 saw quite a bit of play, was kind of thought of as the go-to CS pick because the theory was that he could use the pieces that Kingpin wanted better. But I think every CS player has kind of flipped back to playing Shadowlands Daredevil as their main alt to Kingpin. And I think Shadowlands Daredevil almost defines criminals more. Like, if you're going to play pure Kingpin, I think there's a good argument that you should be playing Hellfire, you should be playing new foes, if you care just about strength. But also, I was commissioned to paint this model by Pat. I thought this model was an incredibly fun to paint. I think all the MODOKs are really fun to paint. Like, the huge face is just really enjoyable, and I had a great time. Then we had Immortal Hulk. Immortal Hulk is a character that I am always scared of going in, mostly because of my faction. Like, I play Shield, and we primarily interact with the game via damage. This model, like, lives up to his name. He is incredibly hard to kill. I've only killed him a handful of times ever. And, you know, I'm talking about a list that I play that can kill New Ultron through Age of Ultron and struggles to kill Immortal Hulk. The guy's very strong. I think he's a little bit susceptible to Shock and Crimson Dynamo, which is my plan for that, and is held down by... There's just like a lot of stagger in the meta right now, so I think he's kind of controlled by that, and ultimately doesn't see a ton of play outside of Midnight Suns. I've seen him in like Malekith Cabal, like the psychopaths that are still playing Malekith after his multiple nerfs, I think are... I think there's an interesting pairing when you play those two together, and they just kind of try to fill in your points. Then we had Squirrel Girl and Gwenpool, which I think is probably the least successful box of this pack. So first of all, I just like could not care less about these two characters. I just like am uninterested in these two characters. But they've also seen almost no play. Like, I every once in a while will see a Gwenpool splashed in a CS list. Not splashed, she's the CS model. I'll see a Gwenpool in a CS list, and I have never played against Squirrel Girl. I've never seen her on the table. I think a lot of that stems from the fact that, like, I think Squirrel Girl just isn't that strong. And Gwenpool is a big ball of stats, and is just a big ball of stats that costs the same price as Beta Ray Bill and isn't Beta Ray Bill. All right, then we have the big elephant in the room, the big complaint everybody has. Cosmic Ghost Rider came out. Obviously, the biggest boogeyman of the year. Most complained about model. I don't think he's as bad as everyone says he is. I think I've gone on record several times. But I think the complaint that what it takes to beat him and playing against him isn't fun, because the model is just kind of a giant slot machine. Like, how much power he rolls at the start of the turn dictates a lot of his ability to play the game, and his spender that, you know, like breaks the fundamental exchange of power, or breaks like one of the comeback mechanics, on top of the fact that he's a large threat model. It breaks some of the comeback mechanics that are built in MCP in a way that is like not, I think, super healthy for the game. And then he commits the two ultimate sins in MCP for an overpowered model, which is, one, his play pattern is not particularly interesting. He teleports, but he doesn't want to teleport if he doesn't have to. He pulls you to incinerate you, and then he takes 2 attacks. Like, that's his play pattern. And I just don't think it's that interesting. And then 2, he's a very, very corner case character. Like, I firmly believe that a model can be broken in this game if it is one of the most popular model, or one of the most popular characters in the game. Like, I don't think anybody complains about Hulk being a very, very strong 6th threat. I think people like, you know, people love to complain. The wargamers love to complain about all these games. But I think it being a popular character that everyone wants to play, everyone wants to paint, helps a ton. This is an alternate reality, alternate universe Frank Castle. So it's not even who, if I tell you Ghost Rider, it's not even the person you're thinking of as Ghost Rider. It's Punisher as Ghost Rider, but also as Silver Surfer. God, I just, like, it's the dumbest comicsy thing ever. And man, this character could leave the game and I just, like, wouldn't bat an eye. I don't know. I think this design really got away from AMG. I'm curious if they're going to do anything. I'm kind of operating like they're not going to do anything anytime soon, especially with the errata pass happening this year and him not being touched. Then we had M'Baku and Claw. Claw is widely considered the worst model in the game at the moment, and I definitely don't think that's true. Like, Sin and Viper would like to have a conversation. But he's a 5 threat without action compression and without a lot of range. And as a result, sees almost no play. He has a very greedy leadership, which is, I think his leadership is like when other models die, he can move, which would be fine if he was a model that like instantly killed things. But that's not what he does. He's like this weird area denial control piece. I feel like something in his kit just like didn't quite work out the way they thought it was, or was seen as too strong in playtest, and they just like missed. The character is interesting, but is also like unclear as to what the intention is and how you're supposed to play him. And then M'Baku. M'Baku is an insane shot in the arm to Wakanda. Kind of him plus the tactics cards that came in this box gave Wakanda a huge power spike. His new leadership is good and easy to use, unlike Black Panther's leadership, which is good and very hard to use. Chieftain of the Jabari is good, and Spirit of Wakanda is insane. I know a lot of people think it's like one of the most broken tactics cards in the game. That has not been my experience. It does unlock some wild turn 1 stuff, and then if you're not doing turn 1 stuff, it's a very dynamic, flexible card in the mid to late game. Frickin' Wakanda is back, baby. Like, they're really, really good, and I think M'Baku is a really cool model. Then we had the 2023 Balance Pass, which I counted on this list, and maybe I shouldn't have as a release, but my gosh, it was like 22 models. It was a huge Balance Pass. I think the community has widely considered it positive. I think it's been overwhelmingly positive. We did a 4-hour cast on this. You can go check it out. I'll link it in the description. We have tons of thoughts on this, but I don't need to like hit it hard here. I was happy with it. The biggest complaint I think most people had was no Cosmic Ghost Rider nerf. And then the big release of the end of the year was the Mighty Corebox. I think this is the best release of the year. I think arguably the best release they've ever done. 11 new characters that share the same alter egos as the old Corebox. The new Corebox is way better sculpts, way more interesting characters, 4 really interesting leaderships in the box. Lots of people were sad about how expensive it was, especially if they just want a character or two. We're kind of at a point where you can kind of go on eBay and pick up each individual characters. But I also think you just buy the whole box. Like, you're going to splash some of these, and I can't believe people aren't interested in playing any of the Avengers here. If I was to criticize this, I think they really bungled the rollout rules-wise. There are some clear mistakes that were not caught during playtest, and then the release came out and they didn't have answers for those questions, despite them having like spoiled the rules and those questions being on the rules forum like a full month ahead of time. The release came, they didn't have answers. We're 2.5 months since release. We're still waiting on 2 rules questions. We still don't know 100% how the Skull leadership works, which is like arguably one of the most important rules in the box. And there's also a question as to how the drone's reactive superpower works, whether it's mandatory or not. Because I don't know, I didn't know this, but I thought all reactive powers were optional. That is not true, apparently. Every reactive superpower says may, except for this one. So we don't know. I thought the box had something for like every faction you could have played. Out of the box, I did a whole series of hot takes on them. Maybe I will, in 6 months, revisit how those went. But I think the early consensus is that Marvel and Spider-Man are the least played out of the box, with Captain Marvel having really, really cool mechanics, but just being a 5 threat that's too hard to get consistency out of. Because that's like a thing that like high-level players look for, is they're looking to be able to consistently execute their character. And Marvel, because she has a hoop to jump through to be worth 5 threat, like she's not worth 5 threat unless she's constantly going binary. And that's like a little mini game to try to keep it going. And I think she's just a little too safe of a design, or a little too safe power-wise. Like I think her numbers are just a little too low for that to be consistently powerful. But also, I'm not sure the power level she'd have to be at for top level players to be playing her, you would want in the game. I just think she's really coolly designed. It's just her power level's a little bit lower than I think people are looking for. And then Spectacular Spider-Man is the other one that's probably not played very much. I think a lot of that just has to do with like Webbs has like 5 threes that are all incredible. And he just like hasn't found the slot. But I think he's good. I think it's just like, okay, you're playing Webbs. Well, he's not going to replace Miles. He's not going to replace Gwen. He competes with Amazing Spider-Man because they have the same alter ego. And then it's like, okay, he's not going to replace Black Cat because Black Cat's like one of the best steals in the game right now. So then you're like, okay, the slot for the 4th non-splashed 3 is him or Moon Knight. And I think Moon Knight still wins most of the time. But I also think a lot of those players just aren't playing a web in that slot. There's like their 4th 3 is a splash. Oh, and then I think the most important thing this box did was it just gave you like a fun new way to play Cabal. Cabal had been kind of languishing. They had been a really powerful faction to start off Marvel Crisis Protocol and had kind of gone downhill ever since. And then the Malekith thing happened, and it was play Malekith or don't play Cabal. And I think Cabal is pretty interesting, but I think Malekith is not my jam, so I just can't play the faction well. And I think New Skull is a really interesting, wider take on attrition and fighting and mid-range, and I think it's really good. I like it a lot. If I can sum up the releases, I think out of all these releases, only one box was really a dud that didn't affect the meta, and I think that's actually the worst thing you can do with a box release, as at least from a miniatures company point of view, is to release a box, have nobody buy it, have those models see no play. And then the second worst thing you can do is make an absolutely broken model that everybody whines about for months and months, which is what they do with CGR. But otherwise, I'm pretty happy across the board. And like I said, I'm not as mad as everyone else about CGR. All right, I went to 4 conventions this year. I did LVO, Adepticon Second Wind Warfare Weekend. LVO, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on. I have a video, maybe it's over there, and I won it. It was definitely the high point of Marvel this year for me. Maybe Second Wind's close, but it was really cool. It was really good to like just kind of prove myself that I have what it takes, that I'm not just some mediocre player yelling on the internet, that I've got the skills to back it up. And as I'm recording this, I'm going back in like 3 weeks, so should be fun. Then we had Adepticon. This tournament for me, the high point was I was the only loss of Pat Dunford, who ended up taking the whole of the main event. I ended up beating him in a side event for affiliation battle where you had to play affiliated only models. We had a pretty close game there, and I managed to pull it out, and I managed to win that event. Alex made it into finals and lost to Pat. Really proud of my boy Alex for taking it that far. Less proud of how he played in the finals, but I know Alex is a good player. He knows he's a good player, and he's hitting it again. He's trying out Brotherhood. I'm pretty excited about it. The last thing that happened there, I just thought the Worthy was really cool. One guy, Jonathan, I think his name's Jonathan Ho, he like swept it. There were 4 golds given out. Okay, sorry. Let's back up. The Worthy is like a rubric-based painting competition. So unlike Golden Demon, which is probably the best known painting competition for miniatures, they don't just give out 1 first, 1 second, 1 third. They give out as many firsts as they think earn it, as many seconds as they think earn it, and as many thirds as they think earn it. They give out 4 golds across the 3 categories. Jonathan Ho taking 3 of them. I really should. I don't know who the other guy that did. I remember his diorama, though. It was like a Civil War Captain America versus Iron Man Civil War like diorama in the dual category. And then Jonathan Ho won Best in Show with his Doc Ock versus Spider-Man duel. That was just really good. They're like going up the side of a building. It was really a fantastic conversion. And my buddy Paul, we both decided that we were going to compete this coming year. So I really got to get my act together on my piece there. But I'm going to put something in the Worthy this year. So I'm very excited about that. In October, I put on Second Wind with Pat, Nate, and Alex. And I thought that went really, really well. Our buddy Zach Cohen won it with Curtis of my A-Force video fame, that you can also check out my A-Force video on my interview with him when he hit number 1 on Longshanks. Played in finals there. Really good game in finals. You can also watch that on this channel. I thought that it just went so well. Like, I think it was the smoothest second wins ever run. We had a really high turnout. I couldn't be happier with it. And if you're interested in sponsoring Second Wind, reach out to me. Let's make something happen. Then, right after Second Wind, I didn't play at all at Second Wind. I didn't even get a side game in. So I went to Warfare Weekend because I was really feeling MCP. Warfare Weekend was cool. I ended up losing to Dustin, and it was a paranoia game into Brotherhood. I fundamentally did not understand the tempo of the game because it was both... when Shield usually loses, it's because you don't understand the tempo or the rate at which the game is moving. I didn't grab as many things off the midline as I could have because I was worried about being deceptioned in and dying. He just didn't have the output to make that happen, and I definitely could have committed more on the midline. I managed to battle it back, and he was able to win the game on a 35%er, and if he doesn't get it, the game goes on, and I feel really good about my odds to win there, but that's still, at any time, he can just take us, better than a 1 in 3 to win the game. Seems good. It's me putting myself in a bad spot. He played well. I got to hang out with the Infamous guys a little bit. That was fun. There was an absolute ton of Cosmic Ghost Rider there. I hit Cosmic Ghost Rider 3 times, and I beat him every single time. Yeah, so those were my conventions. Video-wise, I did a handful of model reviews. I don't think they're really worth talking. They're just hot takes. We had the 10 tips for playing Shield. I really want to do more videos like this, but I just don't have the knowledge base or the skill set to attack those. I would love to do guest writers. If you feel strongly that you can actually write a video like this, reach out to me. I would love to write something or collaborate on something with somebody that knows a faction better than me, and we can do 10 tips and just kind of give beginners a direction to go in. This video came largely out of me wanting to make an exhaustive guide to Shield, but realizing how quickly that would fall out of relevance and accuracy as, stuff got nerfed or new models came out. So I just wanted to give people a direction to go in. We did the I1LVO videos. Surprisingly, they're the biggest videos on my channel. That was pretty cool and felt good, and obviously I love that. We did 5 Run the Length this year. Run the Length is a lot of work, and they release quite poorly. They come out and they do worse than lots of lower effort videos on the channel, but then they tend to build views over a very long period of time. So clearly there's a market for this thing in the community. But just they take 30 plus hours to make, and I don't know. I have one in the can that I've been trying. I have one shot, and I've done the voiceover, and I've edited it to the size, and I'm just doing pop-ups, and it's taking me forever. And it's from when we were proxying mighty Corebox models, and I don't know if I'm going to put it out or not. It's been so much work. I don't know. Sunk cost fallacy and everything. We did the A-Force interview with Curtis, which I mentioned earlier. Definitely my most clickbait thumbnail I've ever done. I have mixed feelings about clickbait on YouTube. Obviously, I'm on YouTube, so I have to do some amount of clickbait. But I like this concept of legit bait, which is you just do clickbait, but then it actually is what the thumbnail says. My thumbnail says A-Force hit number 1 on Longshanks, and that is what happened. And then it's an interview with the guy that did that. I think Curtis is just a really interesting player. I think you should be following what he does and looking at any list he posts. It's really good. We also released this video as a podcast because I thought it was really important that people just hear from this voice in the community. And I think we're going to try some stuff with that next year, where we might try releasing some of the podcasts as YouTube videos. and just to see if we can expand our reach a little bit. And I think the line between my YouTube channel and the podcast might start to blur a little bit more than it has in the past. So I think that's pretty exciting. I did my Corebox hot takes. These did incredibly well. They killed me because I tried to do like 11 videos in 11 days. And oh boy, I think I ended up doing 12 videos in 12 days. And oh boy, that killed me. But that being said, I am really proud of them because even though I definitely didn't call everything right, I felt like a lot of those videos, it's really easy just to to look at the card and then read the card to the players and be like, I like it. And I tried to do a little bit more than that, and I thought it went okay. And then we wrapped up the year by doing my competitive Shield roster and some second win videos. My competitive Shield roster has already changed. The list breakdown videos I'm always kind of weird about because they do really well. And they are very low effort. Like, I just sit here and I just talk about a list I've been playing for a while. But I think I'm just kind of approaching them wrong in the idea that they're low effort. Because there's a reason that every week I don't do a list video. It's because I don't have the knowledge base and I haven't refined a list down to make that a quality video for you. And I think that's part of why mine do so well. I'm going to try to do more of these next year, I think. Then we have the second one videos. This was a fun experiment where I'm looking for a faster way to do gameplay content because I think there is a market for that out there, but I also I want it to be entertaining, and I don't want it to be just a 3-hour experience of you just watching people think. It's an interesting format. It's kind of we're pretending to live stream it, but it's recorded. I'm interested to see how people would respond to doing these if they're not from events. So I'm going to try to shoot some stuff and commentate it with some of the taco truck guys and just kind of see how that goes. As for the future of the channel, I'm always kind of hesitant to talk about anything I'm working on because, that constitutes a promise, but there's some stuff that's unreleased and may never be released that's up on the Patreon. If you have some extra Christmas money and you want to back the Patreon, there's cool tokens out there. There's the $5 Patreon tier, which is the one that I actually make the most money off of because I don't have to provide you a physical product. There's a secret channel in the Discord that only we talk about, and I post early videos in, sometimes stuff I'm just working on when I want to turn it around real quick, and I do funny goofs in there. And sometimes I ask for you guys' feedback. So if you got extra Christmas money, I would love to shoot it. I'll put it back into the channel. But yeah, that's been 2023. I think a pretty good year of Marvel, all things considered. I'm really excited for the next year. Probably the next video, if I get that Run the Length video out, it'll be out. Otherwise, you'll probably hear from me after LVO. As always, don't forget that fun is a finite resource.